Welcome to AsiaEdit et al., the podcast that brings you research publishing tips direct from industry experts. I'm your host, Trevor Lane. Hello, my guest on today's podcast is Dr. Roey Elnathan, who is a mid-career researcher in nanobiotechnology. I've invited him on the show because he recently wrote an article in the career column of the journal Nature. His article was titled, "English is the Language of Science, but Precision is Tough as a Non-Native Speaker." Roey was born in Israel, learned English as a foreign language, and studied chemistry to PhD level in Israel, and is now a senior research fellow at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. So I wanted to hear about his success story, why he wrote the Nature piece, and his advice for researchers learning scientific English. Roey, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Really nice to be here.
And so you grew up in Israel speaking Hebrew. How did you learn English?
Yes, so I studied my English in high school, and then after I finished in high school, I went to the army for 3 years, and once I finished with the army, I went to England for a few months studying English there, and then came back to Israel, and later on I flew to the US, where I've been in a community college, starting a university education in English in the US.
But your university courses were in Israel, I see, from your CV.
Yes. So in Israel, we just learn very basic fundamental English in high schools. But during we get exposed to a TV series, so everything, lots of things are going on in English in Israel. So you get exposed to the language quite in an early age.
Okay, so what language was the university courses in?
In Israel, It was in Hebrew.
And what language was your PhD thesis in?
In English. So I wrote the thesis in English.
Oh, did you have a choice or you chose to do that?
Yeah, we did have a choice and I chose to do it in English. Yes.
So did your university or supervisor help you in academic English?
No, not really. They didn't. It's something that I just faced at an early stage when I was writing my thesis. So I had to face it more by myself of how to construct the thesis and to have a cohesiveness around the thesis. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's brave. And then afterwards, did you turn your thesis into any English language journal articles?
Yeah, so out of my PhD, we published 4 articles in quite prestigious journals. And and basically in the field of nanobiotechnology.
And what was the actual project in your PhD?
So my PhD really was about detecting chemical and biological molecules using nanostructures. So this was the key thing that my PhD, and through that process, I was a part of spin-off a company and also was a co-inventor on 5 US patents about the technology. So it's been kind of a mix of a good publication, creating some IP, and also being a part of spinning off a university company.
Wow, that's impressive for a PhD. I'm sure lots of people are very jealous. So then what happened? How come you moved to Australia for 10 years?
Yeah, so right after I finished my PhD, I started looking online on potential places, and I found Professor Nico Volker. At that time, he was in the University of South Australia in Adelaide, in Australia. And I contacted him through email, and his research really aligned with what I wanted to do, and also with my expertise and the knowledge that I'm bringing. And we had a Skype interview, and I got the position, and then I moved by myself to Australia, which was a big step for me. It was in 2012, just because I went by myself, very far away from all my family, but it was a journey.
And was the project an extension of your PhD or a different project?
You can say it's an extension. Yes, you can say that. It's just the focus of the research I'm doing now is a bit different from what I did during my PhD. Now my research is using nanostructures or nanoneedle array. You can think about them as a bed of nails to deliver bioactive molecules directly into the cell. So it's an intracellular delivery or transport of molecule into the cells using those nanoneedle.
Like a direct injection.
Yes, so you can think about it like a nano injection for the cell. Yes.
Okay. And how did you get interested in nanobiotechnology?
So I kind of grew up into this domain quite naturally. So my fundamental education was in chemistry. That was in the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And through that first degree and my master, with time I just developed into the field of nanobiotechnology, which is a merging of chemistry, biology, engineering, and material science, which is really a platform to allow you to do an interdisciplinary research and to collaborate with colleagues around you.
Okay. And in your past 10 years, have you felt the pressure to have to publish?
Look, if you are in the academia, you do have the pressure to publish, publish or perish. That's something everyone knows. But at the same time, I always been very focused on producing rather than quantity, I was focused on producing a high quality research output and to really do a great science. And just focus on as a science, that was my key focus.
And what types of projects have you published on?
So the core of my innovation, the core of my science is about nanoneedle technology. Again, using those nanoneedles as a platform to deliver molecules inside the cell. And this really allows you to manipulate a cell behavior and function at the nanoscale. So it's a really cutting edge, very new nanotechnology that hopefully will go very soon towards more translational applications.
And as well as needing to write those papers in English, of course, you've had to learn the peer-reviewed publication process. How were you introduced to that?
So when you start to developing your science, people get to know your expertise. So at some point, the journals are contacting you and asking you to peer review other people's work. And many times I do this not specifically the field that I'm doing, but it could also be from a very different field. So you actually learn from the process, you learn new science, and you just give the feedback, true feedback, and what you think will make this a better manuscript. What are the key things that, in your opinion, can help this manuscript to be a better one? So if it's a specific control experiment that you think is missing, or they're missing something in the manuscript, so it could be coming from different angles.
So by being a peer reviewer yourself, have you learnt how to write better as well?
Yes, because in the end of the day, when you are giving your feedback to other people, you really need to construct a positive feedback and also a helpful feedback. So you can criticize, obviously, the manuscript, but I'm also trying to really give points where I think that if the scientists will do that, the manuscript will be just a stronger manuscript.
Now, in your Nature career article, you said that precision in written scientific English is tough. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that what is important to understand, what I learned is that simplicity in English is hard. So when I'm writing my English, I'm all the time trying to just make the rhythm and everything in the writing just more simple, and then it's just more elegant. So back home, we learned that elaborate wording and long sentences really kind of put you in a light that you know more about the topic, kind of you have a authority on the topic just because it looks complex. But ironically, it's exactly the opposite. The English is most elegant when it's just plain and simple.
So by precise, you mean concise but simple, but also clear and accurate all at the same time?
Correct, yes.
And what else have you noticed about written academic English?
So I think that the rhythm is really something that people struggle with. I know my students have their own kind of issues when they're writing the science. So what I'm aiming as a mentor, as a supervisor and mentor, is to help them to improve their writing skills, and not only the writing skills, also communication skills. So in the writing skill, for example, what I advise my team is that rather than perfecting a paragraph right from the get-go, they just need to kind of write whatever they have in mind, like they're talking to me. So just explain me what you want to write and just write it. Don't really worry too much about the grammar, about how it's all connected. Just write what you think. And then you come back to it and start bit by bit crafting it to have a better cohesion of the text and a better grammar.
Okay. And how did you yourself learn to write or edit your work in the correct style?
Yeah, so this is again a process that took many years. So part of that journey I started in England, where I went to school there, in English school to improve my English. And then I went to the US for a few years. And in the US, I was obviously studying in a community college. So everything was in English. I had to face the challenges of university English and to write a piece in English. So that was a big step for me. And then once in Australia as an academic, again, understanding how to write a manuscript or how to write grants, that's something that is really a life journey. It's not there is no magic solution. It just takes a lot of dedication and time and motivation to learn. So the way I do it, I'm trying to read a lot, trying to write a lot, and constantly putting myself outside of my comfort zone in terms of the different writing skills. So for example, when I wrote this Nature career piece, it's a very journalistic piece, and it's not even close to the way I'm writing the science in a manuscript. So it's a very different English, very different style. So I like to put myself outside of the comfort zone and just trying to write different style of English. All these really help you to improve and communicate your science in a better way.
That's a good point, because as well as scientific English for research articles, researchers are expected to communicate their work to outside audiences as well. So they need to know general journalistic style too. Now, in your Nature piece, you mentioned that you found a mentor.
Yes. So that's true. So in the Nature piece, I've been working with a mentor for the last 7 years. The reason I started to work with him, this is more for how to craft a grant. A grant is something that we are writing, a piece that we are writing, and hopefully, if the grant is good, you can secure some money to do a cool research. But in order to craft a grant, it's again a very different style of English rather than writing your own science or publishing your own papers. You really need to pitch the science to people that are not from the field, and not in a complex way. Again, you need to pitch it in a very simple way that people can connect and understand what you want to do. And so it's a whole different domain that I had to learn. And it's through this mentor, bit by bit, I've learned, because we are working online with him. So we are sharing the document, and through the process, he explained me what I can do better, what is missing. And this is how I'm improving my written skills.
And how did you find this mentor?
So I was introduced to him by my boss, who is also working with him, and so many other professors and researchers in the academia that are working with him in order to make their grant application a better one, a stronger one.
And how many years have you worked with him now?
So around 7 or 8 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So quite a long time. Yeah.
With the same person, so you really need the continuous.
Yes.
Now, at Monash, is there any relevant university help available for early career researchers?
Yeah, so some universities in Australia do offer more supportive environment, and they do help you to fund specifically a grant writer, and some don't. So there were times when I was a very, very junior researcher that I kind of invested in myself. So I used my own private money in order to fund some external help. But now some university, like I said, really support this mechanism. And also there is different mechanism in the universities that support the ECR students to help them to write a scientific piece.
Oh, so they do offer some kind of course or education?
Yes, they do offer some support, but again, it's limited. Again, learning a language, it's a process that takes a long time. So even with the support of the university, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. So the students are struggling. Obviously, some students are better and some have a more challenging period with writing their science. Yeah.
Now, you're at the stage of your career when you do have your own research group and you supervise research students. So how many of those have English as a second language?
So out of my 6 people in my team, 5 are non-native speakers and only one is. And the one that she is a native speaker, have an amazing and outstanding English because she is actually also did a law degree with her biomedical degrees. So English is really good. But the non-native speakers, again, there is kind of different levels of English. Some are much more stronger. Some, it's more challenging for them to write their English.
So do you offer coaching on writing and also how to publish journal articles and overcoming language barriers?
Yes, so I definitely try to do my best in order to promote and really help them to write a scientific piece. So if it's in manuscript, for example, I always ask them to first start with the most easy part in the manuscript, which is just describe the results. So you did an experiment, just describe the results. So if you have, for example, a specific plot or a graph, you just need to write what you see in it. And then once you finish with the more easy stuff in the manuscript, then you can progress to the more complex piece where you actually need to write a little bit more strategically, and that will be the conclusion or the introduction or the abstract. And this is where I'm also encouraging them to work with my English mentor, to have his support together with mine, to really create kind of an ecosystem for those students to be able to write those relevant parts at the best way they can do it.
Now for you, what other English-related skills have you had to learn in the past decade?
So I learned, I guess, a lot of the writing skills, but in the writing skills, you really need to differentiate when you're writing a manuscript. So this is for a certain community with a very specific language and a very specific writing style. Or if I'm writing a grant, where again, like I said earlier, it's for a non-expert. So you need to use a different type of writing in order for them to relate to the science. Or if it's just a journalistic type. So there is a different, or depending on the audience, you really need to navigate which type of writing style and how you pitch what you want to do. But writing skill is just one element of what I think in terms of the communication. I think it's really important at the same time to develop an oral communication. And this is really important when you are, for example, at conferences. So pitching your science to a broader community, how to do it correctly, all those things are super critical and important. And that's something I learned through those years.
And then how about non-English skills that you've had to learn? So other types of skills, especially because you now have a team.
Yes. So, for example, leadership skills, that's something that's really, really important. And I'm going constantly to professional development to understand how I can inspire and how I can lead my team and create for them a supportive and friendly environment for them to flourish and really create innovation and good science. So I think that leadership is really, there is many elements or many layers of what is a good leader. And that's something that through the years I'm trying to pick up through different workshop or attending different conferences and learn to have the right tools of how to inspire my team to really do better as a team.
So when did you actually start leading a team during the past 10 years? Was it more recently?
Yeah, so I basically went since March 2017 when I moved from University of South Australia to Monash University in Melbourne. This is where I had the opportunity to create a team, and bit by bit, with time, my team got larger and larger, and now I have 6 people in the team, so 5 PhD and 1 postdoc.
And how, in general, do you maintain good team working and good mental health in your group?
So I'm trying to really support them in terms of giving them first all the money that they need in order to do the science, because the science that they are doing is very expensive. So I'm working very hard to try to give them, in terms of money-wise, whatever that they can fund any activities that they would like to do for the experiment. That's one side. Second side, I'm trying to be very responsive to any problems they have. If it's a personal problem or a problem that relates to the lab. And look, in the end of the day, each student, if you have 6 students, you have 6 different worlds. Everyone is very different. So it's not that I have one kind of strategy for all the 6. For each one, I have a different strategy, and each one has its own scenario. So I have students with very small babies. I have a student with kids, big kids. Everyone has his own scenario. So just being flexible and try to really give them the supporting environment that they need, and understanding where they're coming from for them to be happy and to do a great science.
Okay. And then I'd like to know also what motivates you and what are your career plans?
Yeah, so I'm just motivated by the fact that I'm in a very innovative, very stimulating environment in the university, really spending time with younger scientists. I'm learning from them and they are learning from me. So it's always very nice. And I think the university as an kind of an ecosystem is a great environment to be. And personally, I would like to just continue on focusing doing the science that I am doing. I'm very focused in terms of the application, trying to do some translational, fundamental, and also translational research. And maybe, hopefully, one day I can even be a professor. That's the long-term goal.
Oh, good luck. Yes.
Thank you.
And what do you like most about Australia?
The people. I think in Australia, the people are super, super nice, very welcoming. Since I arrived in 2012, right from the get-go, I got great friends. I felt very welcome. People are just nice. They're open-minded, and it's a great country to live in.
Well, it sounds like you've made a great effort and you're very successful in making the transition from moving from Israel to Australia, going from learning English and learning how to write papers, and now you lead your own team and you're trying to teach them the good things that you've learned. So what are your parting words of wisdom or tips for success in publishing in English?
I think what the people or the students really need to first love and be passionate about the science. So you only will be in this field if you are passionate about something. So I was always passionate about science, so this is why I'm here. It's not for making money, it's not for being famous, it's not for being a celebrity. It's just really understanding how the world around us working. So this is where I'm coming from. And I guess the tip is for the students is just be inspired and do what you love to do. And yeah, this is the key thing, I think. Do what makes you happy. If science makes you happy, do that. If you are not into that, so it's not. There's many other things to do in life.
And anything specific about scientific English?
Yes. In terms of scientific English, I think what can help people is to write the science more precisely, is just to read a lot of different context of English, if it's a journalistic type, if it's more a scientific type. So different types of English really helps for that. And just to write on a daily process every day. So when I'm coming to the lab, the first 30 minutes, and that's what I'm also telling my students, just write something, just getting into the habit of writing. And you will see that with time, it's becoming more an easy skill to pick up.
Okay, right. That's really, really useful tips, all of those. So, Roey, thank you for being our guest today and for sharing your experiences with us. And best of luck with your research.
Thank you so much for hosting me. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the AsiaEdit et al. Podcast. For more publishing advice, visit AsiaEdit.com. I'm Trevor Lane, and I hope you tune in next time for more expert publishing tips.